My talk is longer than that. I'm just warning you, okay? As I unfold this big stack. 43 years ago, we gathered for our first graduation. We had no tent. We weren't even accredited, for that matter. And we gathered in a gravel parking lot up in what is today called the Newland Gardens, or the Red Bricks, and celebrated the accomplishments of two students, Bill Ginn and Kathy Johnson. They were both transfer students. Bill was from Amherst College and Kathy from Yale. Can you imagine that conversation? Mom, I'm leaving Yale after 3 years to go get my degree in this non-accredited school in its first year. I think there are 36 students, and it's somewhere on the coast of Maine. But today, Bill is helping lead the world's most influential and important conservation organization, the Nature Conservancy. Kathy is the senior staff attorney for the Natural Resources Council of Maine and is leading the charge to create a new national park in Maine's North Woods. And like the folks seated here, those two thrived as students and continue to thrive as human ecologists working for a better planet. And like all of the 2,150 graduates of COA, they shaped this institution that so powerfully shaped them. That's because we're not a monolith here at COA, but we're something more akin to clay, right? That's been worked by the hands of students just as much as by the hands of faculty, staff, trustees, and friends. And the 43 years of dialogue that we've experienced between hands and clay gives us what COA is today. And sometimes that changing form is tough, like when we lose staff members, Puranjot Khalsa, Charlie Farley, and Christian Mendez, when they move on, or when faculty members Heath Cabot and Nishi Rajakaruna leave for new adventures. We're going to miss these people incredibly. But even with that change, today's form that we see here is beautiful and one I feel very, very lucky to be a part of. We have a tent in case it rains. We're accredited now. We're a bit bigger. Today, we're celebrating 82 graduates from 24 states and 13 countries. And we're... And where the tent, the size, the accreditation, the permanence, I think has inspired more confidence among families. These graduates are every bit the explorers and adventurers of those students from the early years. I am honored to share this day with such adventurous people. And I brooded over that word honored for a long time because I know presidents throw around the word honor in commencement time. But while brooding, I've been to scores of senior project presentations and other class and individual projects, and there is nothing better than the last 3 weeks of spring term at COA. I wish nothing more. We could put this tent up and you could all come and camp here for the last 3 weeks of spring. The experience of performance, music composition, mathematics, film, drama, clowning, charcuterie, and I've left each one of these experiences with my mouth agape, eyes unblinking. The intellectual maturity, creativity, and skill of these works has left me 100% satisfied with the authenticity of the word honored. In the midst of all these projects, I took a day off last Saturday, and I went to the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art, MassMoCA. And COA faculty member in painting and drawing Sean Foley opened an exhibit he curated there entitled Explode Every Day, an inquiry into the phenomenon of wonder. And during the 6 hours there, the exhibit opening, and the 6 hours back, I had loads of time to meditate on this word wonder, and I've decided to use it in my shtick. My evolving description of how I try and describe the COA graduates. To review, COA folks, as Will said, are scrappy. They get stuff done creatively and without much hand-holding. but they temper this scrappiness with thought and are thus, as Will said, contemplatively scrappy. They are appropriately humble, yet they know when the time is right to be bold and really act on an idea, and they are thus contemplatively scrappy, humble activists. But now I will add wonderful to that description. And wonderful not in the way that my grandmother may have described, like the doilies on her dining room table, but in the way Sean described it at the museum. Sean describes wonder as that space between not knowing and knowing, right? As something that precedes and is wholly distinct from curiosity. And where curiosity typically leads to research and problem solving and other practical things, wonder doesn't always do that. Wonder is ephemeral and it is emotional and exists before thought and words can actually pin it down. It's the stuff that causes like your mouth to open up and your eyes to bulge and all your pulses and self to quicken. Our students are wonderful in the sense that they are full of wonder and inclined to states of wonder, but they are also wonderful in the sense that their work provokes the feeling of wonder in others. So in this exhibit narrative at Mass MoCA, Sean emphasized the words of Ray Bradbury, who asked that we find ways to wonder every day and at things that might otherwise seem mundane. He asked, how can we move through the world with this sense of openness to wonder? How can we actually cultivate wonder? Well, that's what this college is all about. One way we can do this is to both practice and develop reverence for art. I firmly believe that it is only through a society-wide embrace of the visual, the oral, and the performative arts that we can change the trajectory of our world away from what sometimes feels pretty hopeless. It is art that will recalibrate our sense of value and our perverse perspective on what's useful. It is art that will allow us to negotiate the complexity of the human individual, human society, and the natural world. So wonder provokes art, and art wonder in a very powerful, virtuous circle. Second, careful and patient observation of the world around us can also provoke wonder. That kind of observation is at the root of the practice we call natural history, a practice elemental to so much of what we do here at the College of the Atlantic. Behind so many of the projects that I witnessed, even those that you would not normally consider natural history. And although I'm leaving the introduction of our commencement speaker, Barry Lopez, to my friend and colleague, Galen Hecht, I here have to say that Barry's work is some of the most important, most powerful natural history the world has ever experienced, and we are so fortunate to have him here on campus. In Barry's writing, he rarely comes out and says, hey, this is the way it should be. But he takes this tact at least once in an essay called The Passing Wisdom of Birds, where he makes a very definitive suggestion. Our world, I think we all know, is in the middle of something of an attentional apocalypse. And to dig out of this hole, Barry stresses that we need more natural history and more natural historians, and he suggests that every college in the country should have a position called the Campus Natural Historian. And in honor of Barry, I am taking his advice and am here creating the position of the Barry Lopez Student Natural Historian at COA. So in the fall, I'll solicit suggestions from the faculty and staff, and I'll give a student the title, a budget, small budget, and a charge to explore, observe, and describe our wonderful campus. So there's wonder from art, there's wonder from this patient and precise observation, but what would our world be if all that wonder remained trapped in the minds of the wondering? Such a world would be confused and it would be selfish, terribly selfish. And so a necessary third method for catalyzing wonder is through the story and the storyteller. To draw again from Barry's words, everything is held together with stories. Stories and storytelling are the connective tissue that holds human society together, but they're also the crucibles for transmitting wonder from one person to the next. So we have at least these three methods for provoking virtuous cycles of wonder: art, natural history, and storytelling. And notice how they parallel the COA curriculum. Art aligning with art and design. Natural history as a key element of scientific inquiry, and storytelling as the fabric of human study. It should be no surprise then that these students here, these graduates, are full of wonder and full of the potential to inspire it in others. So with that, I present to you the COA class of 2016, now part of the College of the Atlantic alumni community of wonderful, contemplatively scrappy, humble activists. Congratulations. Yeah.